Yeah, so let's get the party started. Thank you. Good morning, good evening, everyone. And I guess this is too early for the US folks. So, thank you, New Starts of Data team, for giving me this opportunity. A special thanks to Deepti, as she's my mentor. And thank you, Ben, William, and Marcus. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. So, as we can see, our today's topic of discussion is related to the evolution of database security as we have moved from on-premises to cloud. So this slides is related to me. So it's a little introduction about me that I belong from to a SQL Server database administrator background. I have 8+ years of experience. I have few certifications from the Microsoft, that is 8900, DP300, and I have expertise in working in relational databases with the AWS and Azure offerings. So I have a keen interest in automating things with the help of Jenkins and other tools. And knowledge and decision in the DevOps automation, so that we can make our life easier for DBS and related to database things. And so let's connect over LinkedIn after this session instantly, so that if you have any questions related to the sessions right now which I can't take up in the Q&A, or for the later for future activities, we can connect over LinkedIn. Thank you. So let's start with the main thing, that is our main presentation. So evolution of the database security, what we have today is related to the objective is to explore the journey of a databases from on premises to cloud. So if we have a data that they need to store the data from somewhere from the on-premises to the cloud, we ever evolved the databases and data management systems. So in the current thing, we can observe the database are shifting from more and more into the cloud. So as I've quoted this statement on this slide, that as per the Gartner prediction, 80% of the new databases will be implemented in the cloud rather than the on-premises structure. And more companies are using database for analytics and follow the SaaS model to achieve this. Next slide is, this is the main pillar. So evolution of the database securities, main pillars are network security, access management, threat protection, information protection, and the main thing is our customer data. So if we have secured these type of pillars, then definitely we're going to have a secure database environment, so that we can give a security to the customers and no breach will be happen to them. So our questions while we move from on-premises to cloud is to know that how we can ensure that our data security will be there in the cloud while doing the migrations. So I have I've divided this particular topic into 10 points. So I'll come up with one by one. First is to conduct a thorough risk assessment. So before embarking on the cloud migration, we can conduct a comprehensive risk assessment, identify sensitive data, potential vulnerabilities, and compliance requirements. This step lays the foundation for tailored secured strategy related to the security. The second point related to is reputable cloud service. We need to choose that whether we need to go with the Azure, AWS, or any other cloud provider. So we need to select the right one, so with which in pass with our requirement. The third one is the implementing the encryption protocols. So we can utilize the encryption to safeguard data both in transit and at the rest. So transport layer, that is TLS, and secure socket layer, that is SL protocols, should be employed for data in transit. While encrypting at the rest ensures that data security is within the cloud storage. The fourth one is employ multi-factor authentication. So it's amazing technology nowadays. Nowadays, it comes up with the offering related to Azure, AWS, or any other cloud service provider, and it's really easy to use as well as more secure than the SQL Server authentication and Windows authentication. So it's to require multi-factor authentication for all the users accessing the cloud resources. This acts as an extra layer of security by the additional authentication factor beyond the password. It can be a biometric or a token. Nowadays are very famous applications provided by the Microsoft, that is authenticator application, which can be used as an MFA as well. Fifth one is we need to define access control and permissions. So it implements the strict access control to limit the data access to authorized person only, assign roles and permission based on the job functions, ensuring that the principle of least privilege is followed. So it's a common practice that we follow on premises as well, that is available on the cloud front as well. Sixth one is the regularly updating and patch system. So it's a, you can say it's a unicorn for all on-premises and cloud systems. So in cloud system, mostly is handled by the provider only, but we need to make sure that we are properly updating our systems and properly applying the patches, whether it is security patch or whether it's a feature patch, so that we can be updated with the upcoming technology and the vulnerabilities as well. The seventh one is the monitor and audit activities. So in this, we can leverage cloud native monitoring tools to track user activities, network traffic, and system events. So we can implement it in the real time alerts as well, so that it can be more of a proactive approach, so that nothing vulnerable can happen to your system. Next is employ data loss prevention, that is a DLP solutions. So we can utilize many DLP solutions to identify and prevent the unauthorized and sharing the leakage of sensitive information. These tools scans and classify enforcing policies to protect against the accidental and intentional data breaches. So it's very famous things nowadays within the cybersecurity branch, that DLP solutions must be ensured on the cloud strategies. Next is the we need to conduct security training and awareness programs. So it's an empowered program. We need to educate employees about best practices for cloud security, because moreover the resource needs to build up a solution over the cloud single-handedly, whether he or she is from the database background or the implementation background, or whether a consultant. So regular training sessions and awareness programs should be there in the culture, so that the security consciousness among your workforces. Last but not the least is related to the perform regular security audits and assessment. So we need to schedule periodic security audits and assessment to evaluate the effectiveness of our security measures. These evaluations help and identify and rectify potential weakness in our cloud security posture. So remembering that ensuring the data security during the cloud migration is critical to the success after our cloud migration. So it's important to take the time to evaluate it completely and carefully, so that all the stakeholders in the should be involved in the decision making process. So it's very important, so that we will be ensured that when we are moving from on premises to cloud, we should be all covered. Now this comes up like a security challenges in migration process. Earlier we have discussed about ensuring that we are secure, but after ensuring and implementing, we comes up with some kind of security challenges when we are moving from on premises to cloud. So first of all is the during the migration process, there's a risk of data exposure. So that is a first point is related to data exposure only when we are transferring our data from on premises to cloud environment. So it's crucial to ensure that data is encrypted during the transit to prevent the unauthorized access. So encryption is very much important in the data exposure procedure. Now, next is misconfiguration. So we should avoid this. So misconfiguration in cloud security can lead to vulnerabilities and can exploit can be we can be exploited by the attackers. So it is important to follow the best practice. We have a list of ISO best practices and checklists provided when we are moving to any kind of cloud provider. So we need to go ahead with that best practices. We need to do the regular audits, monitoring the security configuration, so that we can mitigate this risk. Next is the access control. So access control being a very important plays a very important role, because when we are building a secure system, we can build it with the help of best practices. But what if we are not providing the access to the concerned person who are really responsible to make changes over the system as a sys administrator. So access control, managing access control during the migration can be a challenging thing, as different cloud platform may have different access control. Like in AWS, we cannot have the RDS admin, but in Azure we can assign a sys admin role over there, or we can play with the DB owner thing. So it can be difficult whether we are going with Azure, AWS, or any other cloud providers. So it is important to carefully plan and implement access control policies, so to ensure that only authorized users have access to the migrated data. Compliance. Last one, but very important. So we need to be ensure that with regulatory requirements, it can be complex during the migration process, but it is important to understand and address any compliance requirement specific to cloud environment being migrated to. So next slides basically tells us about the cloud migration. So it has a significant impact on data security, but on the other hand, it offers a number of security and compliance benefits. So earlier we have discussed that how we can be ensured. Then the second is the impact, is the challenges, and now we are telling about the cloud offerings that is being offered by the cloud provider, so that it can be cloud security of a database can be easily available. So first of all is the increased scalability and elasticity. So cloud providers can scale resources up and down as needed, which can help to improve the security by reducing the attack surface. So for example, if we search into a traffic to a website, cloud provider can automatically add more resources to handle the load. This can help to prevent the denial of service attacks. So it's really helpful. Now the second thing is enhanced security features. So in cloud provider offers a wide range of security features like encryption, access control, intrusion detection. For example, AWS Key Management Service, that is KMS, provides a secure way to store and manage the encryption keys. Likewise, in Azure, we have Key Vault. This can help to protect the data from an unauthorized access. So, if we change our platform like Azure, AWS, or any other platform, the concept, the main journal concept remains the same. Only the name of that particular service, or you can say some of the features of that particular service, gets changed, but the concept of cloud computing over any of the cloud providers remains the same. If we want to ensure that our security is enhanced or are more secure, we can keep all information over a vault named as KMS in AWS and Key Vault in Azure. So sorry. Now the second is the shared responsibility model. Cloud providers take responsibility for the security of the cloud infrastructure, while customers are responsible for the security of their data and applications. This can help reduce the workload on the organization as they don't have to manage the security of the underlying infrastructure. So it's very helpful for the person, for the organization who is, I guess, who is handling a lot of infrastructure with less number of people. So it's a best suitable for those organizations. On the other hand, cloud migration also introduces some new security and compliance challenges like increased complexity. Like cloud environments um, can be complex and difficult to manage, which can be more difficult to ensure security and compliance. So, for example, organization needs to understand how different AWS works together and how they can be configured to meet their security and compliance requirement. So, this is very much important. The next is data sovereignty. So data sovereignty means that cloud providers may store data in regions that do not have the same data protection laws as the customer home country. So this can be difficult to comply with the local regulation. So AWS provides a guidance over this and compliance evidence and contractual commitment so that the customer can use AWS services to meet the compliance and regulatory requirement related to the data sovereignty as per the region control. Okay. Next slide is to which tells us about to mitigate these risks that we have seen in the last slide. To mitigate these risks, an organization need to consider few security and compliance implications of the cloud migration before making a move. So some of the security controls for the data security and compliance should be carefully with each phase of migration within any kind of provider, whether Azure or AWS or GCP. First is the access. So we need to identify that your data access means your data assets. This includes identify all the data that you need to migrate to the cloud, as well as its sensitivity and classification. Now, access your current security posture. This includes understanding your current security controls and procedures, as well as the gaps or vulnerabilities. Identify your compliance requirement. This includes understanding the industry regulations as per your organization is set to. So in AWS, we have several tools. So AWS offers a number of security tools, which can be helpful for the person who is doing the migration. Like IAM, it's a very famous service that is AWS Identity and Access Management. Same with Azure, they have also IAM formalities, which can be used to manage user access to AWS resources. And AWS key management service, that it KMS, that can be used to encrypt the data. So as we have moving more and more into the slides, we have seen that the principles remains the same. The concepts remains the same along whenever we move from any kind of cloud providers. Next is to mobilize. So develop first of all, to mobilize, we need to develop a migration plan first of all. So this plan, what does this plan includes? This plan should include a detailed roadmap for migrating our data into the cloud. And the security and compliance controls should also be there in the mobilization plan, so that it will be a first thing to, first of all, as a we have seen earlier in the software development plan as well, the requirement gathering. So requirement gathering is this only: we need to develop a migration plan. Now, next is to implement the security controls. So for we can create a secure environment or a landing zone to a host application and implement the security controls that were identified in our migration plan. Now we can use that particular secure migration methodologies, like for example, AWS architect framework provides a guidance how we can design, build and operate the secured cloud application. So it's when we go to that particular service, we can see a template over there where the predefined identities are there, and we can see and I get a roadmap or an idea that how we need to move and what all important points are there that we need to keep in mind while making a plan or implementing it. We need to use a secure migration tool. When we are using a migration tools provided by the cloud provider itself, I guess those are secure one. So there are a number of secure migration tools in an organization. Like for example, in AWS, we have AWS Snowball Edge. It's a secure appliance that can be used to migrate data to cloud. When we are using a Snowball Edge to import data into the S3, all data transfer to a device is protected by SSL encryption over the network automatically. We don't need to do it manually, or we don't need to apply it manually over the data. Now, next is to protect the data at rest. So Snowball Edge uses the server-side encryption, that is SSIC. So it's an amazing tool. Now, the last is the migrate. So when we are doing a migration, we need to monitor our security posture. This includes monitoring your security controls to ensure that they are effective and there are no vulnerabilities. We need to, when we are done with the planning, when we are done with the monitoring, we need to document our migrations as well, because this includes the documenting of the migration process, including the security and compliance control that were implemented. And that can be help for the future reference as well. If something happens, some ransomware happens, or some kind of threats are going to happen to the system, we can refer that what are our predefined security principles were there on which we are following, and what we need to change it from now. So delta change can happen only when we know the original data. So that's why we need to document it as well with the proper artifacts. Now, in this, one more thing comes up, that is to perform a security testing. So security testing should be performed throughout the migration process. This includes the testing the security of the migrated data. This includes the security of the migration tools as well, and the processes involved in between. So if we collate our last three slides, we can easily be understand whether it can be any of the cloud service provider. When we are doing a migration, we need to keep some kind of security sense in our mind, so that our data will be secured all over it, whether when we are moving from on premises to cloud. Now, in upcoming slides, we're gonna see the several of offerings. We can see the several services and the features provided by the cloud, which has helped to achieve all these, you can say, as security standards. So let's move with that. So I'll not go through all the theory part over here, because I have covered these in the screenshots, and I'll take up a 2 minutes demo as well to show you where exactly all these things lies in the portal. I'll take up the example of the Azure. So I'll just quickly walk you through all these features that is offered by one of the provider, that is Azure. So this is the ISO checklist. This is the standard ISO checklist all over the world that needs to be followed by any of the cloud provider in order to say that their data and their environment and infrastructure is 100% secure. So first of all is the checklist. So I'll go through it, and the first one is the protect data. So in this, they help us with the help of the encryption when we are in motion. So TLS is there, TDS is there, and with the help of TDS and TLS, we can achieve this particular checklist that is related to the protecting the data when we are in motion. When we are at rest, so transparent data encryption, that is TDE, it can be achievable, like same as the on-premises data, but this is much more fast and secure and encrypted as well. Now, when we say is that database accesses, so we have um, Windows level, we have SQL level, but we have some more other, like in Microsoft Intra authentication, that is the AD authentication identities managed by the Microsoft Intra. We have authorizations related to row level security. We have Microsoft authentication related to multi-factor and many more. Now, if we say that the application access, we have row level security and related to dynamic data masking. So these both features can be used, and they are widely being used by the bank all over the world, so that they need to mask their data that is related to the customer IDs and many more credit card numbers, utilities, CVVs. So these two features are widely used over there. Now, when we are talking about the security concerns, we need to be same 100% secure, or we know how can be assured that we are secure. We need to proactive with that. So we need to go with the monitoring expert as well. That when we are keeping our data in cloud, how about the monitoring? How are we going to monitor it? So for tracking and detecting, so they have auditing in place, where we can store the activity log in their account storage. So when we are in Azure, so it will be Azure's storage account. We can track the database health using the logs. We can identify the threat as well when we are going in Azure as well as other providers. Now, this is something very important. So I have kept a separate session for this, that Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So it's a real time, you can say it's a real-time scanner which can tell you about the vulnerabilities, which can tell you about what exactly your particular system is going and how it is performing. So Uh, this is an amazing tool provided by the Azure. I'll cover up all these topics and the tools later in the presentation. So if you have any questions, then we can take up at the last. So this is a small case study which I have designed for a, and it's an ideal one. Means we have followed all the company's standard. We have followed everything. Sorry, we have followed everything, and how it does it looks when we migrate from on premises to cloud. So I have taken an example of company A. So first of all, we have company A is successfully migrated their database to cloud, implementing the robust security measures. So what did they utilized the encryption techniques to protect the sensitive data and implemented the multi-factor authentications for access control. So they have implemented the access control strategy and the strategy and the checklist which we have talked earlier. Now, with the regular security audits were conducted to identify and address the vulnerability. So they have implemented the multi-factor accounts for the RBAC, and second is they have implemented the regular security checks. Now now they have their strategy that is being tailored related to the security. First is the data encryption. So they have implemented a robust encryption protocol to protect the data in transit and at rest. They have used the identity and access management that is related to IAM, establishing the strict IAM policies to manage user permissions and access. Next is the threat detection and response. So they have a real time monitoring and which can detect the anomaly system to identify the respond to the security threats and promptly. Now, to be 100% sure, they have compliance assurance that ensuring that all security measure aligned with the industry specific compliance requirement. So when we have followed all these things, the result is enhanced data protection, regulatory compliance, and scalable security. So they have started from here, end up here. So if we the all what I mean to say is if we are following all these kind of things, we will be able to deliver a successful migration without exposing any data to the threats. Next, Microsoft Defender, the tool which I'm talking about for the databases. So before talking this, I would like to show you where exactly it is in the portal. I'll take up this. This is exactly Azure, and definitely it's a trial version, so I can't be able to showcase every model. So first of all, I'll need to show you that I have created a SQL server on which I have created a SQL database. So first of all, we'll need to go to the SQL server, and on the SQL server, let's talk what we have seen in the PPT is first of all the access control. So this is the IAM permissions. So we can assign our role assignment over here. We can check our accesses and we can assign our RBAC as well, that role based permissions. So we can define all these things in this section where we need to define the IAM properties. So first of all, you need to create a database. After creating the database, you need to assign the permissions. So for assigning the permission, you need to go to the IAM permissions where we can do check the access of the existing and we can assign the role. These are the roles which are currently available over there. That is owner, contributor, reader. These are the three which are majorly used when we are doing as a testing part or as a DBA part. But we can be more explicit as per our requirement that if we want to use or utilize only the API, we can give the access related to API permissions. Okay, if we are going to use the automation purposes, when we can assign the role related to automating automating the contributor and automation runbook as well. So this is more specifics as related to the database offering, or you can say a database server. So these are the roles that is available in the existing Azure background. Now This is exactly what we are talking about is the Microsoft Defender. Let it open. Okay, I have five recommendations. Okay, so first of all is the how we can enable it. When you go there, you can ask you for upgrading your particular server. When you click on the upgrading the particular server, it will go for a scanning, and after scanning, you will get the anomalies. So first of all, let me go to the uh, database. This is exactly my database is. Okay, perfect. Now, if I go to Microsoft Defender, so here exactly what exactly it is. As you have seen, there only one finding in the database. And if I open the server, you can see five recommendation and one finding. So these recommendation is related to the severity. First of all, it says that in your server, the Azure SQL database should have Azure Active Directory only authentication enabled. The second is auditing on the SQL server should be enabled. Third is SQL database should have vulnerability finding resolved. The second is private endpoint and the public network. So what I did when while designing this particular server, I make it public. So if I go here and show you, this is exactly my server is, and 1433 is the default port on which it is creating. So I can show you, like suppose, oh, sorry, oh, got stuck. Uh, sorry, I'll quickly take 1 minute. Sorry. So it says that the DBO user should not be used for normal service operation. So I have shown you that yesterday I did a SQL injection over there. I created a table with a user ID and username. Okay, and then after it, I have created the I've inserted some kind of values. These are the values which I have inserted. And after running this particular code, which says to do the select testing on the users where user ID is input one. So when we are using that set input lodges, that is one equals to one, it's showing me all the username and user ID with the same login. So this is something known as SQL injection in particular learning. So we can see it shows you the vulnerability that DBO user should not be used for normal service operations. So it says that this is unhealthy. This is the scan time, which I have done yesterday. This is the severity with medium. So it says that DBO or database owner is a user account that implied with the service permissions. So it shows me the recommendation. This is the remediation. What we can do, we can rectify it and get this done. So once we do it, it will show you the zero finding or zero recommendation. So moreover, Microsoft Defender helps you to identify the vulnerabilities which are there in your current account. So let's get back to the presentation. So basically, let's. I guess it if we are not able to understand that particular demo, let's go through this slide and when we can go back and understand that. So first of all, to understand moreover about a SQL database protection, we need to identify the layers. So firstly, it is related to the this is the exactly the secure SQL database. This is actually the application layer on which we first of all need to secure our database, and then we need to secure our data, and then we need to secure the changes that we are making to our data with the help of the application and auditing activity auditing. So in this portion, firewall, user permissions, all these are implies when we are securing our database. When we are securing our data, the encryption, like we have seen in the earlier slides, row level data masking, row level security encryption, everything comes up here, and these are related to the incremental data security that lies over there. Next slide is exactly a theoretical part that what exactly Microsoft Defender do. So basically, if we have a SQL database in SQL MI or DHW, or whether it's a VM, so it creates a layer over there as a secure Azure Defender, which helps us with this Azure Center. And it comes up with two offerings, that is advanced threat protection. It detects the unusual and harmful attempts, so that your SQL server is being breached across the hybrid. And second is the vulnerability assessment. So we need to be discover and remediate the security misconfiguration in SQL Server. That exactly what I have seen in earlier slide. And when we are utilizing the DBO user or DBO permissions over there, the vulnerability scanner is scanning that and is asking us to stop that. When we rectify it, definitely our SQL Server will be secured. Now these are the supported SQL environments. First of all, Microsoft Defender is made up of two separate Defender plans. First is for Azure SQL Database Service, in which it comes up with Azure SQL Database, MI, and a dedicated pool in Azure Synapse. Now, next is Microsoft Defender on the machines protects the virtual machines, on-premises SQL servers that where Azure Arc is enabled, and Azure server is running on the Windows machines without the Azure Arc. So here exactly what it says that Azure Arc is enabled the SQL Server 2012, 2014, 16, 17, and 19. So whether it is an on-premises SQL Server on EC2 and Google Cloud. So it will be a private data center on a cloud. So we can compare it between two. So when we are using it over a private data center, we can use Azure Arc Agent as well. These are the costing, that is Azure SQL database for 7 servers. I just given a glimpse that what exactly, how much costs or approximately that how much it requires from our pocket to make the database secure with the help of the Defender. For Azure SQL database, using the 7 servers, we can utilize it uh, $15 server per month, and SQL Server on machines like $15 per month if we on it, and the storage is 50 storage count where point 0.2 $0.02 per 10K transaction. So it depends on that how you're doing with it and how exactly we're going to do it. Now, how we can enable the auditing on SQL Server database? Like enable the Defender for SQL on every SQL alert can be customized at the database level if needed. So it's exactly the same database in which we need to enable it. Just a minute, I just have a glass of water. Yeah. Sorry. So when we are enabling the Defender for SQL on every SQL server and database, alert can be customized. It can be customized as per your offering. It can be customized if you want it over an email, whether you want it over a pager duty. It can be ultimately integrated with those with the help of the APIs measure. So SQL Server database monitoring is not required by the Defender for SQL, but it's highly implemented. Highly recommended. Decide if auditing will be enabled on a database, servers, or managed instance. This is how it enabled auditing. Go here, save it, enable the auditing, and you are good to go with that. Next is how to configure the vulnerability assessment. So Defender utilizing with first of all, we need to create a storage account. So where we can store that particular scan results for all the database on the server or managed instance, it will be stored over this storage account. Now we need to set up the vulnerability assessment so that we can run a automatic checks, whether weekly or with your periodics. The third one is by selecting the recipient for a scan result emails. So first of all, we need to check that first of all, we need to enable the Microsoft Defender. We need to select the subscription. This is the storage account. We need to check for the periodic recurring snacks. Enable it. If you want that those reports over an email, you can enter your email over here, and those reports will be sent to you at when the scan gets completed 100%. This is how you can configure the vulnerability assessment. So when we are reviewing the when we have enabled the vulnerability scans, this is how it comes up. Like first of all, we need to review the initial vulnerability assessment scan, that the SQL server level firewalls rules should be tracked and maintained. So this is how it comes up. So when we click on this, it will comes up like this will tell you the theory part, that how you can how it can gonna impact you and how you can remediate it or you can improve it. Now, next is when we decide that what fail check must be, it needs to be addressed. Like if we are saying at the server level firewall, it needs to be done. The second one is the same, that DBO user should not be used for normal service operation. But you can see the severity. This is the high level security severity, because it can be used by the attackers to exploit your database or the data. But this is not an severity. This has a medium severity. That is, the color also gets changes. Now track all users with access to the database. This comes up with a severity low, because it doesn't have that potential so that your data can be exposed. So you need to be senseful that how you are acting upon. First of all, we need to rectify the severity one. Then if you have, then we need to go ahead with the medium, and then at the last. Now the protects against the common SQL threats. So when we are saying that how we are how we are getting threats over a SQL data, our data is encrypted, everything is secured, but we need to we need to make sure that how we are accessing that particular SQL, or of some particular web app is accessing that particular SQL. So this is exactly how this shows that when you are doing a checks over there. So web app is making a connection to your SQL Server database, in which the data is being called to the blob storage. And then this is the Azure Resource Management, in which all the Azure Container Registry Kubernetes services that being hosted on your VM, and it comes up with a DNS. So everything is interconnected. So they have a huge potential which can impact your SQL data. Sorry. So first of all, we need to understand what are the recommendations over there. It says to recommend to SA login, disable the SA login. It says because it can be easily exploited. So SA is basically a system administrator account. It can be easily exploited. We need to disable the XP underscore command shell so that the command cannot be implemented with the help of the T-SQL. So it says as a recommendation, but it differ from requirement to requirement. In some of the organization and company we use command shell, because we need to do some operations related to batches. So it depends that how your operation is. Now how it detects particular, when it detects, so it detects what all it can detect is it can detect a potential SQL injection. It can detect a SQL brute force with the error login, that when exactly it happened, what exactly the victim is, and all the information related to it. It can detect the crypto miner in particular VM, if there any kind of crypto miner is running into a VM. It can detect the potential data infiltration. So exfiltration is something when you have filtered your data and provided the PIL. Then in that case, someone is accessing those data with a potential with a potential threat, then it can detect those as well. So first of all, how it starts. So first of all, if a SQL injection is there in the web application, the second thing is it can detect the SQL brute force. That is also an external thing. Now the data exfiltration is happening over blob storage. Sorry, over a blob storage. So these are the three injections. First of all, the external factors that is related to the threats, and the last one is the insider that is related happening to the blob storage itself. Now the demo part. So I'll go back to the Azure portal in which so first of all, let me show you. So when we are talking about a SQL server and a database, when we go to the SQL server, it shows us that this is exactly what offers over there with the five recommendation. It shows us that your Azure database should have Azure Active Directory enabled. I have not enabled it right now because I'm using it on my local. The high one is the SQL database should have vulnerability finding resolved. So the vulnerability finding which we have over there, if we click over here, it will show me the same vulnerability that is present over the database. So if we are not resolving this, then it also comes as a severity in the server basis, because it doesn't identify whether it is a severity medium, but the purpose of finding it at a higher level in the server level because the database showing as a vulnerability. So this is exactly how it goes. Now the second thing is what we are going to talk about is the common options which we have discussed in our slide earlier, that how the TD is encrypted over here. So transparent data encryption, it has two options, whether a service managed key and a customer managed key. So we can apply over here. If we are going with a customer managed key, we need to select the key. We can go here, and this is the key store type. This is exactly what we are talking earlier, that this is about the key vault. You just need to create a new key vault, give it a key, give it a version, and your TDE will be enabled with particular TDE encryption. The second thing which we have seen is the auditing. So if we enable the secure auditing, just click on this, select the storage option, select your subscription, go to the storage account. Now it says whether you have how you're going to authenticate yourself, whether you have a managed identity, or when we are using a SQL MI, or you have an access key. If I say I have an access key, then it says go ahead and create it. So we need to create an access key. We need to keep in the, whether in the key vault, and save it. The last thing is over here is just a minute. Networking. So when we are designing any kind of database system over here, we need to ensure that we are we are going to access it with the help of certain levels. First of all, whether we want to go it with the public access, whether we want to give it a private access, and how we are going to test the connectivity over there for the outbound networking and for the connection policy itself. So let's talk about the public access. If we want to give it a public access, we need to uh, select any of these two permissions. If we want to disable it, you can keep it disabled. If we want to give it with a certain network, just click on it. Now you can add the firewall rule and basically add a firewall rule, add your IP class over there, or you can add your existing client IP address. You can give a VPC, virtual private network, where we can within that range, all the machines will be there. So it gives you the leverage to utilize all these things. Now, second is secured by a parameter. So you need to you need to design your VPC or your network parameters within the parameters and give it to the public access. So more secure is the selected networks. if we go over there with the help of the connections. Second is the private access. If we want to create a private endpoint, just click on this. It will show you it will ask you for the subscription, the resource group. Then we need to identify the instance, then the network interface range. It will ask you for the resource. It will create a virtual network, assign a DNS, and if you want to give it a tag, and you can create it. You can create your private end over here without any
10
other
minutes left.
infrastructure.
10 minutes left. That's a
Okay,
queue.
so thank you, Marcus. The last one is the connectivity. So outbound networking is the restriction. So for what we can say, we can apply some kind of restrictions over there, that whether we want to restrict it or we need to add a particular domain if we have a fully qualified domain name. So we can add the outbound networking to it. The second thing is the connection policy. So in connection policy, we have three things. First is the default one, in which we can use a redirect policy. The second is the proxy, if we want to use the proxy over there, or we want to redirect it. Means we can re-establish the connection directly to the node that is hosting on the database. And the last thing is the encryption in transit, in which we can go with the TLS version, that is transport layer connections, and it comes up with these three offerings. So let's get back to the slide. These are the references, thanks, which I have used to design these presentations. And now we have Q&A. If you have any questions, please do let me know.